So hello everyone, welcome to our second episode of the Russian Revolution. A lot of students may be wondering about when I say that 70% of the causes of the 1789 revolution in France, those causes are almost similar to the causes of the Russian Revolution of 1917. So here I'm trying to give a guideline to students who may be panicking, who may be rushing towards UNEBA and they don't have ample time to fully cover the Russian Revolution. So for a student to be able to pass such a question, a student must be able to understand like the general causes of those revolutions. If a student is well versed, for example, with the 1789 revolution and later reads through the Russian Revolution of 1917, you'll find that there were great similarities. So I'm going to now bring out how these things were almost similar, how these revolutions were almost similar. As I had said that, it's only that if they bring the 1917, most of the causes are similar, it's only that the location changes and the years change and maybe the personalities. Okay, let us look. For example, both of the 1789 and 1917, both the 1789 French Revolution and 1917 Russian Revolution were partly caused by the personal characters of the queens. For example, in France, Marie Antoinette, she was arrogant and highly unpopular with the French, with her extravagance and her involvement in French political affairs. Similarly, Tsarina, the wife of Tsar Nicholas II, was also heavily involved in Russian politics. For example, she relied on that witch doctor, I say the witch doctor, that spiritual guide by the names of Gregory or Rasputin, or some people just call him Rasputin. This, as a result of relying on that Rasputin, this made her extremely unpopular, ignoring the advice of other people or other skilled Russians. She relied on a witch doctor, spiritualist. So both of them were caused by the personal character of the queens. Then also you see the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution were both caused by what we call the weak characters of their leaders. For example, in France, King Louis XVI was very undecisive. Then the same applies to the likes of the same applies to Tsar Nicholas II. He was also undecisive. How was King Louis the 16th undecisive? For example, his inconsistency by, for example, trying to escape. You recall well when he tried to escape to Varennes, even after holding the Estates General and trying to escape to Varennes, he was viewed as a traitor. Then also this other Tsar Nicholas II, he himself, he was inconsistent. He didn't implement the Charter of 1862, which had been signed by his great grandfather. For example, the known emancipation of the serfs. Okay, he didn't put those into place because serfdom had been put in the document that serfdom was abolished. But for him, he didn't implement. So this angered the workers and the peasants, hence his overthrow. This even explains why both of those kings, okay, King Louis XVI alongside his wife were arrested and later guillotined in 1793. Also, Tsar Nicholas II, alongside his wife Tsarina and their 5 daughters, were massacred, were murdered. So there are great similarities. Another is the class divisionism. Okay, here you find that in France we had the privileged classes as the nobles and the so-called clergy, okay, who were privileged clergy, controlling education, owning a large percentage of land, exempted from taxes, including the nobles. The same implies here, okay, the Tsar Nicholas II, on his side, the Orthodox Church itself had enormous privileges, controlling religion. So while in France it was Catholicism, here we had Orthodoxism. So here's Tsar Nicholas II's favorite religion, known as the Orthodox Church, and the patriarchs controlled a lot of resources, controlled education and religion. So this angered other classes, such as the working class, or known as the Soviets. Then also in France, that also angered the peasants and the bourgeoisie. Another point is how these were similar. You actually see despotism. Despotism, French soldiers, French people being arrested by unwarranted letters of arrest known as lettres de cachet. Then also in Russia, people being arrested, taken to notorious prisons in Siberia. You understand the winter of Siberia, you couldn't survive, okay? So as a result of that, with the despotism, these Russians got fed up. You must understand that Russia had also been ruled under Saddam for over 700 to 800 years. So this is how almost both are similar. Then another similarity, you see that the role of the philosophers and the thinkers, the likes, for example, in France, the likes of Montesquieu, Rousseau, Voltaire, okay, and the encyclopedists. Then on the side of Russia, the thinkers and the philosophers. For example, Lenin was a philosopher. He came up with his the Lenin ideology, having been inspired by a German socialist by the names of Karl Marx. He read the book of Karl Marx known as Das Kapital. So this is where he was able to get those socialist ideas. In my own words, I say, as a result of Vladimir Lenin reading Karl Marx's Das Kapital, he became what we call radicalized, okay? So he became a die-hard Marxist, okay? So as a result, he wanted to implement those policies. These policies later became popular amongst the Russian population, hence the outbreak of the 1917 revolution. Another similar cause, as you may see, taxation, okay? Bad economic policies such as taxation, overtaxation. In France, some people were exempt from paying tax, such as the higher nobles, nobility of the robe, the clergy. Then the same applies with Russia. Some other people also were exempt from paying tax. So as a result of being exempt from paying tax, okay, this angered other oppressed classes like the serfs and the peasants. Then another one is what we call the need to end feudalism, the need to end serfdom, okay? So you find like in France, majority of the peasants didn't have land, yet they were a large population. Whereas in Russia, the serfs and the workers were the ones who were of the largest population but didn't have rights to land. So most of those causes are quite similar if you were smart and strategic student, or for example, you're stranded, okay, you've seen that you can only do 3 numbers. There has been a number of the revolution that has appeared in your UNEP, but you cannot do other numbers. But the other number that you may somehow try to do is the Russian Revolution of 1917. So you can use some of those strategies or some of those tactics and compare, contrast, and you just borrow a leaf. As long as you know who led the Russian Revolution, who was overthrown, then when did it happen, and who led who. So just as easy as that. That's just as easy as that. Then also another point, you can see influence also for other countries, okay, external factors. So Russia, the Russians were admiring other countries like Japan, okay, though the likes of Lenin, Stalin were admiring their neighbors like Japan. Japan under the imperial army and under the emperor, Japan had started experiencing industrialization, while Russia was lagging behind. Then also these other people like Lenin, who had traveled widely, Trotsky, had seen other countries like Germany be developed, okay, highly developed with the what we call with the industrial revolution. Germany under the likes of Otto von Bismarck, later Kaiser William II. They had managed to develop economically, industrially, while Russia was lagging behind. So these people then greatly admired other countries, okay? And that's why you see they decided to work hand in hand with the workers. So even it explains after 1924, Stalin, with the death of the likes of Lenin, Stalin decided now to ensure massive industrialization, massive mechanization. So the Soviet Union started now getting involved in massive agriculture, agricultural cultivation and massive production, mechanization, use of tractors, collective industries being built alongside places like Stalingrad, places like Leningrad, okay? So all this explains why the revolution happened. So you can keep on borrowing what we call a leaf if you feel like you're stranded. Yes, thank you very much.